Live, this is One for the Record. I'm Diana, and today is February 9th, 2013. And here are your updates for today. It's Saturday. Saturday evening, not too late this time around. And let's first go to the watchers watching the world. Very strong M6 magnitude 6.9 earthquake struck Colombia. Yet more evidence emerges that our universe is a grand simulation created by an intelligent designer. Heads up! Explorers reach bottom of mysterious Labrador Lake in Siberia. Winter storm Nemo progressed in the eastern U.S. Okay. Also, I'm attaching Dr. Deagle's Nutrimedical report, the Earth Changes part. The Extinction Protocol 2012 and beyond. This one says strong magnitude 7.0 earthquake shakes Colombia. 2012 DA-14 asteroid to make closest flyby in history. Okay. It's the weekend, not a lot of news. NHK residents from outside Fukushima to sue government over radioactive contamination, compensation for health concerns. Also today, magnitude 5.4 near Fukushima webcam shows quake hitting nuclear plant. Remember they were worried about anything over a 5? That's happened a few times now. Alrighty then, I'm attaching Dr. Deagle. Also, found something very interesting. It was about that old movie Mars Attacks. Oh yes, found something very interesting in it. Maybe that's why no one cares to fix the radiation that's going on at Fukushima. Maybe. I'm just trying to get answers from outside the box now. Alrighty then, I'll show you what I ran across. And one of Diana's theories. Alrighty then. Just take it with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? But it's just, that's the only thing I can think of. Things aren't being fixed. It must be for a reason. It must not be bothering certain people. Alrighty then. Take care. One day down for the weekend. One more to go. And I'll see you on the flip side tomorrow. Stay safe, stay warm. Also, I was listening to Coast to Coast, George Norrie's radio show, and someone mentioned on it that fireplaces, if people a long time ago, they used to go to the person's house that used to have the fireplace, just in case there's no power. So heads up, if you have a friend, you know someone, a neighbor with a fireplace, maybe they can help you out. And then they have also an outside grill. Also, let's see, I did write something down that I heard. As of Sunday, Year of the Black Snake, the Chinese calendar. And I guess that means it's the Year of the Black Snake. We've got to be very decisive on everything people do, I guess. That's what they were saying. And also, heads up, in a New Guinea town, a woman was accused of being a witch, sorcery or something, and she was burned alive. That's right. In the year 2013, they're starting to burn witches again. Heads up! What the hell's going on in New Guinea? Alrighty then. Take care, and I'll see you on the flip side. Strange news out there, but it's the real news. Be safe. Fireplace. If there's no power, fireplace. Yeah, check out the flag. Maybe that explains what's going on here. What's really going on? You know, this explains a lot, I think. I guess, what is this? I guess this is Mars's flag. When Mars attacks. Looks more like the Illuminati sign. Wow. Maybe they're terraforming our planet. But maybe this is the answer. I don't know. It's just, there are no coincidences. I just happened to be looking through different videos, and I saw, oh, that used to be a cool movie. And lo and behold, the pyramid with the eye on top. But if you really think about it, maybe it really does make a lot of sense. Think about it. Maybe, just a thought, maybe we have been invaded. Maybe radiation doesn't bother these people. I don't know. Terraforming the planet.
Great. Ann, give us some updates. You've done some remarkable research today. I mean, we talked earlier, and you pulled up some new research about the three big comets passing Earth and the inner solar system. And according to Dr. McCanney, over the many centuries that monks, ancient high priests, and the Vatican have been watching, and all of their telescopes are comet telescopes, that they're not only harbinger of death, because if you pass through the tail of these, they contain cyanide and other neurotoxins, but also they trigger off earthquakes, volcanoes, extreme weather, and when they pass the sun, because they're plasma objects, they trigger the largest superstorms on the sun. And in fact, right on Dr. McCanney's website, he shows an actual NASA picture of a comet passing the sun causing a superstorm. So it's not just a theory, it's a fact, okay? So people need to understand, I don't know when the date is when the kill shot that's going to affect Earth, but the globalists probably have a pretty damn good idea because they know the orbits of these comets coming in. There's 3 this year, so NASA's called this the year of the comet. The one passing in October past Mars and in toward the inner solar system, the sun, thereafter in November, is going to be 16 times brighter than the moon. That's going to be a big deal. So,
yeah, we're going to be able to see it here, and right now they can, well, they'll be able to see it in the southern hemisphere sooner. Right.
Now, you've done some amazing research on 3 areas. First off is what I call the 15th of February, which is the Ides of February, Dr. Deagle's birthday, weird enough. And it was rated up in size. I'm not going to steal your thunder. Tell us the story about that. Then they also have, believe it or not, today while we're doing the show, we have extreme weather here in California. We've had flash floods, hailstorms. It's so crazy. I've never seen weather like this in Southern California. And tell us about that. And then, of course, we got all this new information about the third area that you want to cover. So let's get rolling on that.
Okay. Well, there was a CME, and it was a very unusual CME. That's a coronal mass ejection. And it was unusual in that it lasted for 30 minutes. 30 minutes? 10 minutes.
10 minutes. 10 minutes. That's a very long surge. How long is the average? I think it's just a matter of seconds. So this is probably one of the longest CME surges in what, decades or longer?
Well, this is what I would call a long duration CME. And it came in it was emitted with a flare on the 6th of February.
Wow.
And we think that it's coming in today or tomorrow, and it will have an impact on the weather.
Right, that's the plasma.
That's the plasma.
Yeah, back in just a moment with Ann. Welcome back, and let's continue. With the CME coming, we're probably going to have some extreme weather. We have basically all the flights to the Northeast canceled, and 2 feet of snow in Boston. It's likely that the weather is going to be, extremified or made even worse by the CME because it perturbs the upper atmosphere and the ionosphere. It also means that energy can be a little extra bump of energy hit the tectonic plate. So if there's about to be an earthquake, a volcanic eruption or something, it's likely to happen. Space weather is a primary trigger for events on Earth. And according to the thesis of Dr. McCanney, alignments of the planets with large comets, strikes by comets and asteroids are very important. And of course, passage of comets near the sun are the major triggers for superstorms in the sun, and we call the kill shot. Now, I know Major Ed Dames has talked about this. I've been talking about it for many years as well, that space weather is a really big deal, and it's something that we play down. And the reason why I'm so interested in space weather is I became the next down to the commander, George Schwinder, the next down at CCOM back in 1994. And I got Q-level security clearance, U.S. Space Command Strategic Defense and Star Wars. So I got to see things firsthand that are so classified, unless you're the president or a senior member of the military, you're not going to know about these things, and they're not imaginary. There's a wall between Tier 1 science, as Professor McCanney says, and Tier 2. What you do, Anne, is really remarkable because you pierce through that by pulling references that are in the literature or in the media, and you actually put together a very plausible picture that things like strobing the Earth with ultraviolet light, that's very bad for plants and the benthic layer of the oceans to generate phytoplankton, generate oxygen, that surges of magnetic fields that can cause earthquakes, volcanoes, and affect people's behavior, etc., is bad. And that, in fact, you can have some major catastrophes, including, extreme weather, triggered off by space weather that can be very catastrophic or even extinction level. So let's continue, because you've got this CME. What do you think is going to happen in the next few days with this CME, and how is it going to instruct us if we have, let's say, a comet-activated superstorm with a really big CME that could happen as early as this fall or sometime during the year? And there's 3 comets that we now know their orbital pathway that you sent me as well, which I'll post up, that I'm sure the globalists with their fancy computers could probably predict not only the passage time when it gets close enough to the moon, to the sun, to get an arc of plasma and a superstorm, but we'll also have a pretty good idea if there's any active sunspots that are maybe aimed to be Earth-centric that'll surge in trillions of tons of plasma toward the Earth and cause a major perturbation of our magnetic field, maybe crack the magnetosphere, strobe the Earth with solar wind and high-energy cosmic particles and gamma rays, and let's make life on Earth very nasty. What does this mean, that what's going to happen this weekend, and what's likely to happen in the fall if we happen to be Earth-centric to a comet-activated kill-shot superstorm on the sun?
Yeah, well, we had a C9 flare on the 6th, and it was in the central part of the solar disk, but not on it was north of the horizon. It was north at 22 degrees out of 90. And so it's earthbound. and it hit immediately, but it was only a C9, and it didn't have much impact. However, at the same time, a CME was generated and sent towards the Earth. Now, the CME will not travel as fast as the flare. The flare will get here within minutes. The CME takes 2 or 3 days to get here. CME is a coronal mass ejection, and what that is a very complicated, very strong, very intricate magnetic field. Now, this CME, although it was generated at a C9 level, was of long duration. It was 10 minutes long. And you just think about it, it's going to be hitting the magnetosphere. Now, the magnetosphere protects us from the solar particles that are streaming all the time towards us. Well, sunlight occurs, so there's other things streaming along with that sunlight. And what happens when the CME, especially a long-duration CME, comes in is that it will actually crack the magnetosphere. What happens is that very intricate, very complicated, very intense magnetic field will hit the magnetosphere and break the lines of magnetic force, and that will let in what's called the solar wind, and that'll let in protons, electrons, UV, and other particles that are part of the solar wind, part of the energy that comes from the sun. Now, this being 10 minutes long, if it opens a crack, and I think that it will, then that streaming will continue for up to 10 minutes. In doing so, the CME will continue to push on the magnetosphere, and so we will have movement of the magnetic lines of force. And you need to put your electronic products into a Faraday cage. That is I use a galvanized steel trash can, and I line it with a blanket, and then I put I'll put my cell phone in there and other things that are likely to be shorted out by the magnetic field moving through them. We know that the magnetic field will move through our brains and create currents, so you can expect bizarre behavior. And because there's a crack in the magnetosphere, there will be the atmosphere will be heated. Well, I don't want to say heated. It will be energized by the solar wind, and that will make extreme weather events very strong. Now we have a bombogenesis going on the East Coast. We're getting a nor'easter, as they say, and it could make it even stronger than it's going to be. It's already going to be at record strength, and it could make it even stronger than they think that it'll be. They're talking about 100-mile-an-hour winds. They're talking about a dozen, like 2 feet of snow or 3 feet of snow. They've already canceled travel on highways in Massachusetts.
So basically, this is going to stop road traffic. It's going to probably bring down power lines.
Yes, the other thing that the CME does is that it will create currents in long lines, and so anything that has an antenna attached to it will possibly become energized. Your car, because it's steel, will be a sink for the magnetic lines of force, and you'll get a induced electric current. So you don't want to touch your car. You can be inside of it, but I wouldn't get outside. And if you do touch it, it'd be like a static electricity jolt, and it would probably be hot. So if you drew up to a fuel pump and opened the door, you'd get that spark that might set your car on fire.
Yeah, so in other words, if you just happen to be unlucky enough that that 10-minute surge happened when you're gassing up, might be a real bad idea to touch the gas pump at that time.
And not only that, it will go through the brain, and it will create currents where there should not be currents, and you'll get bizarre behaviors.
Yeah. I.e., the tinfoil hat people. I'm just kidding. Believe it or not, it's a time when people should be carrying hats with a little Faraday cage in them, and that Faraday
right.
cages around your electronic equipment and so on is a real good idea, and we have them over at Less EMF, all kinds of very nice little things. You can do something as simple as a aluminum trash can, but you want to get Faraday cages for your electronics because it's not only the year of the comet, it's the year of the sea. Welcome back, and you do such a great job, and one of the things that I've discovered is one of the most popular hours of the week is this hour we call preparedness, civil defense, martial law, which, by the way, includes a bank holiday. The lowest level of martial law is, I like when you see some of the experts in this break into song, holiday, like it's a bank holiday. And it's not a holiday. It's basically credit cards don't work, can't get gas, can't get groceries, can't go to the restaurant, can't go to movies because you don't have cash at home and they don't want to take gold or silver coins. So this is a big deal, the whole issue of comets. We're going to have more information as time goes on, and I'm hoping to do some more video, perhaps even over the weekend on live stream channel, so check that out. Anybody who's been a customer of Nutrimedical gets access to the live stream channels. We're going to be doing a lot more multi-site conferences and other things on the live stream channel. Anything more to talk about these comments right now? What about the big one that's coming up in the fall? Any information on that?
Yeah, that's nicknamed ISON, ISON, and it's going to pass by the sun very, very close. I mean, it's going to be, it's going to fly through the sun's outer atmosphere at 745,000 miles from the stellar surface below. So they think that it might be a sundiver. In other words, it might fall into the sun. The sun might just grab it. But if the comet survives the encounter, it would emerge glowing as brightly as the moon, visible near the sun. So we'd have two suns in the sky. And it says the comet's dusty tail stretching into the night would create a worldwide sensation.
Yeah, and by the way, you know what they call that second sun?
What?
They call it the morning star. And you know who the morning star is? Yeah, morning star, basically, it's a reference to Satan. They call it the Satan star.
Oh, okay.
So if you look into occult areas, including the ancient priesthood in Sumer in Egypt, they see the sign of the second star in the sky as a sign of the change in the age and a major destruction coming to the planet.
Wow. Well, that's possible because it's going to be so close. I mean, you're talking 745,000 miles from the surface of the sun. I mean, that is like...
That's inside the sun's inner heliosphere.
So it's likely to have an impact on the sun. That is, it will have a gravitational attraction to, let's say that there was an incipient flare, and it might set off a flare, or it might, and if Earth is in the way, it could set off a kill shock that would hit the Earth.
Now, I know they use a technique called remote viewing, and I don't necessarily want to say I endorse all the stuff, but what people have to understand is that a human being is a multidimensional being. We have a physical body that's limited to the 5 dimensions of our lower realm. And people, what are the 5? The 3 dimensions of distance and space. Then the 4th dimension is called time-space, which Einstein delineated in his special theory of relativity. The 5th dimension is called the torsion field, which basically curves time-space to create things like wormholes, the black holes in the center of the galaxy and throughout the universe that are even moving. And of course, the emergence of what's called white holes. Believe it or not, people realize that matter and energy reemerge. So at the center of every galaxy is 2.5% of the mass of the galaxy. The stars actually have white holes emerging new mass and energy into them, linked up like lights in a Christmas tree. And in fact, it's thought that the torsion field, the time-space field, the 5th dimensional field, exists before planets like Jupiter and the Earth, and that the torsion field actually agglomerated and brought energy and mass together to actually create the planets and to create the stars. Those torsion fields existed before the stars didn't just, in other words, gravity and the Higgs boson and so on had to actually pull that mass together of interstellar dust, etc., or transport through wormholes the mass and energy to literally create the planets. So the process isn't just kind of a random thing where this giant cloud of dust decides to suddenly become gravitationally active, swirl around and become a planet or a star system. That in fact it's an active process. And galaxies are actually, if you want to call birthing stations or uteri for creating stars. Stars are not independent of the black hole. They're actually umbilically connected to it. That's an interesting theory, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I was really worried when they were working with that with that black hole generator over there on the Swiss-France border.
Well, what they're doing there too is they've got a new device that they're building that'll be ready in 2018, and that's a new tokamak. And the tokamak is going to be the largest one in history. It'll be about 4 to 5 times bigger than the one in San Diego here. The largest one in the world is in Britain right now, called a jet. I'm not sure of what each of the terms stands for, but the largest tokamaks in Britain. And they use powerful magnetic fields rather than gravitational fields in order to converge the mass. And they're using hydrogen rather than helium-3. The problem is, you see, Tier 2 scientists have access to a certain level of knowledge. What they've been doing for decades now is mining helium-3, which is a natural byproduct of the nuclear reaction on the surface of the sun. And Dr. McCanney talked about this, Professor McCanney, that the nuclear reaction, if you look at the research data he's seen, the center of the sun is not the hardest part of the sun. The hardest part of the sun is in the plasma field around the sun. And in fact, helium-3 is generated by the reactions, the nuclear reactions there of nuclear fusion. And the helium-3, in fact, is used as a fusion fuel for our miniaturized tokamak reactors that are in our Aurora space fleet. And we already conquered this 40 years ago. The fact is that the globalists don't want to pass this information on because we already have access to star power energy. And, it's an ongoing problem where we don't need to be worried about tied to fossil fuels. The problem with fossil fuels, they call it, which really isn't. I mean, small amounts fossil, mostly abiotic. If you burned all of the oil in Venezuela, the oxygen concentration of the earth would drop to 0, or pretty damn close to it. We'd all choke to death, let's put it that way. And you couldn't turn on your car because without oxygen, it doesn't work. So we don't have a problem with, we have a problem with what's called peak oxygen. If everybody decided to, energize and drive SUVs or just regular cars, and we keep on cutting down the rainforest and poisoning the oceans and killing the benthic layer, the world doesn't have lungs anymore. And it's hard to breathe without lungs. Think of the ocean surface and the rainforest and the grassy lands as the lungs of Earth. And by the way, whenever you generate oxygen from those lungs, if you're burning it off, for example, one A380, which is the Airbus, uses up in 1 hour more oxygen than all the human beings on Earth breathe and use to support their biology. 1 hour.
Wow.
So I want people to understand that I'm the first that I know of to speak powerfully about the whole issue of peak oxygen. It's a big damn problem. Now, the solution is not crazy old nuclear technology where you boil water with fusion reactors. It's not going to thorium reactors or even the most advanced of the one, the Pebble Bed or the old Canadian Can-Do. It's getting to tokamak fusion reactors, which they'll pretend is not going to happen until 2040 or 2030 or God knows when. We already have it, but they don't want to let it out to the people because their goal, and this is what I'm going to talk about for a second here, I call it Scenario X. Scenario X leads to Reason Y and to what's called World War Z.
Friday we may see that asteroid flashing through the sky.
Well, you'll be doing the show with John, so you'll have a lot more time to talk, but this one whipping by is going to be 5 football fields. Yeah, 5 times the football field. And we wonder if it's going to hit any of our communication satellites, or it's going to change weather, or break up like Tunguska and cause a major super flash in the upper atmosphere. Who's to know? It's going to be interesting. Take care and take action and pray after you do.